Welcome back. In this video we're going to explore how Excel deals with dates and times. So let's go ahead and take a look at how Excel deals with dates and times. You'll notice here that I've got December 25th, 2001 displayed in cell B2. And I've got it displayed in a pretty typical way, with the months first and the days, then the years. Now you may have noticed working in Excel that Excel can display dates and times a number of different ways. And we'll demonstrate that here in just a second, but I did want to point out one other thing. Excel can store more information in a cell about a date than it's actually displaying to the user. So in this case we just see a specific day. We see Christmas Day in 2001. But when I click on the cell, you'll notice that I've got more information than that stored in the cell. I'm also tracking information about a specific time during the day. So this particular worksheet, this cell in this worksheet, is actually tracking information about a specific point in time, 7:37 a.m. with 15 seconds on Christmas Day 2001. Now most of you probably had already finished opening your presents at that point. Let's go ahead and look at some other formats though. So there's a couple available to us here just in the drop down box on the Home tab. This is the short date that I'm displaying right now with the month, day, and then year with 4 digits for the year. Long date will show me not only the month, day, and year, but it'll also show me the day of the week. So if I click on that, you can see that I can display that information about the date. To access more formats, I click on this More button here to access the Format Cells dialog window in Excel. And under the date options, you can see that I've got several different options available to me. I can display the short date format, month, day, year. I can display a long date with day of the week, month, day, and year. I can just show month and day, month, day, year with 2 digits for the year. Really a number of different options here. And I even have a couple of options that will display the date and the time at the same time, so the user can see all of the information that we're storing about that particular point in time in the cell. You'll also see that I've got a category for time here. So not only can I show information about the date associated with a specific point in time, but I can also show the time portion of that. So I've got the option here at the top here that'll show the hour, minute, seconds, and then whether it's in the morning or the afternoon. When I click on that, then I just see the time portion of that particular date. Alternatively, I've got options that'll convert the date to maybe a military format. That would be something more like the second option up here at the top or the fourth option. And there should be some options here that allow me to show both the date and the time, as with the date options as well. Now, to fully appreciate how Excel deals with dates and times, we really need to dig into what's happening in the background. So you'll notice on this worksheet I've got the same date, December 25th, 2001, at the same point in time, 7:37 a.m., stored in cell B2. And I'm displaying it so that the user can see both the date and time portion of that. I'm going to go ahead and reformat this again and change it to the general format to reveal Excel's deep dark secret about how it deals with date and time. And that is that to Excel, a date is just a number. So December 25th, 2001 is really the number 37,250.3175. Now, to be a little bit more accurate, I should point out that the date portion of a date to Excel is everything to the left of the decimal place. So the date December 25th, 2001 really corresponds with the number 37,250. The time portion, on the other hand, is everything to the right of the decimal place. So 7:37 a.m. really corresponds with 0.31753. Now, there are a couple of really interesting implications of storing dates as numbers in Excel. The one that's really most interesting for this class, though, is that we can do some arithmetic on dates. So notice I've done a calculation here. I've basically taken the difference between December 25th, 2001 and Christmas Day in 2000, and that difference can be expressed as a number, 365 days. If I were to change this, let's say I was really interested in the number of days between Christmas 2011 and Christmas 2000, that same arithmetic will be applied to the difference between those two dates, and I can see that there are roughly 4,000 days between Christmas Day in 2011 and Christmas Day in the year 2000. There are some really interesting things that we can do with dates because Excel treats them as numbers. So as an example, if I wanted to create a worksheet that tracked information about dates and the amount of money I'm earning on those dates, I could put in information like I made $350 today, and I could put in today's date. Let's say that it's August 1st, 2011, and I can automatically increment that by just adding 1 to the date in the previous cell to get me the next date, and I can copy and paste that down, and I can start to build a pretty quick journal, if you will, of the money that I make on specific dates. Now I can use that for a lot of things. I could use that to create a budget, for example, figure out my monthly cash flow. I don't have to stick with just daily increments here. I could add 7 to the number above and copy and paste that down and start to look at maybe a weekly budget or a weekly journal entry. I could add 30 to it, 31 to it. I can really start adding some interesting flexibility with dealing with dates, treating them as numbers. The other thing I can do with dates is I can separate the date part from the time part and do arithmetic on either one. So for example, I've already shown you that I can do some arithmetic on dates, and I've already shown you that the date part of December 25th, 2001 is the number 37,250. Let's start to take a look at doing arithmetic on times. So let's say I'm interested in the difference between 8 o'clock and 7:37 in the morning. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this formatted as general here, equals 8 o'clock in the morning minus 7:37 in the morning. And notice that I get kind of an interesting result here. Just went ahead and formatted this as a date for me, and it's telling me that the difference between 8 a.m. in the morning and 7:37 in the morning is actually 12:22 a.m. Now that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, so let's go ahead and reformat that as a number. Now that doesn't make much more sense either. Now what would we expect the difference between 8 a.m. and 7:37 to be? You know, roughly if we look at that, we would expect that to be 22 minutes and 45 seconds difference. So why am I getting the number 0.015798? Well, as we start to thinking about it a little bit, let's look back at how Excel actually stores a time portion for a date and time. Everything to the right of the decimal place is the time portion of it. So I'm really looking at a fraction of a day. Let's reinterpret our result here. So the difference between 8 a.m. and 7:37 a.m. in the morning is really 0.01579 parts of a day. Now, if you don't believe me, let's do the conversion to see if we're right. So to convert from fractions of a day to minutes, I need to multiply by 24 because there are 24 hours in the day, and by 60 because there are 60 minutes in an hour. So I'll take my result here, multiply by 24 again because there are 24 hours in a day, and again by 60, and I can see that as I expected, the difference between 8 a.m. in the morning and 7:37 in the morning is 22.75 minutes. Excel has a number of built-in functions that help us work with dates and times. Let's look at a few of them. The today function, that's the first one I want to look at. Notice that today has no arguments. The reason for that is that the today function basically will just insert the current date in a cell in a worksheet. All of the information that Excel needs to insert that date comes from the computer itself. It just checks the current date from the date settings in the computer, and it inserts that in the worksheet. Now, one of the things that's kind of neat about the today function is that it'll always display the current date as long as Excel does a recalculation. So anytime you put a new function in another cell in your worksheet or force Excel to recalculate, that today function will update as well. So if I were to insert the today function here to get today's date, and were to save this workbook and come back later and open it up tomorrow, for example, Excel would recalculate and tomorrow's date would appear where today's date was stored today. The now function works the same way. It looks at the current time in the computer settings, in the system settings, and it will store in a particular worksheet, in the cell of that worksheet, the current time. The workday function works kind of interesting, so I'm going to go ahead and put December 25th again, 2001. There's really nothing significant about that date other than I guess I like Christmas. I can use the weekday function to tell me what day of the week Christmas Day 2001 fell. Now we know that it was a Tuesday from earlier in this video, so we would expect that to be the third day of the week, right? Assuming that Sunday is the first day of the week. So let's go ahead and try this out. So weekday, it expects two arguments, as you can see, serial number and return type. Return type refers to how we reckon days of the week, so we'll talk about that in just a second. The serial number, I can give it a date because, again, Excel stores dates as numbers. And I'm going to assume that Sunday is the first day of the week, and I want a number 1 for Sunday and through 7 for Saturday, so I'll choose my return type as 1. And I would expect to see 3 return as the weekday. Now, the return type works as follows over here. You probably noticed the various options that were available when I was completing the function there. The return type basically refers to how I deal with the first day of the week and how I want to number those days. So if I assume Sunday is the first day of the week and I want to start with the number 1, I use return type 1. If I assume Monday is the first day of the week and I want to start with the number 0, then I would use return type 3. And you can see the various options that are available. Essentially, you can start return type starting any day of the week as the first day of the week, numbering 1 through 7. Week number has the same arguments. The week num function will basically return the number of the week in the year that a particular date refers to. So in this case, December 25th, 2001, that's going to be essentially the last week of the year, at least one of the last 2 weeks of the year, depending on where we start our week, whether we started on Sunday or on another day of the week. So I'm going to go ahead and use this function here to return that. Again, it accepts a number and a date is fine. And let's say our week starts on Sunday, so we'll be happy with return type 1 here. And indeed, it turns out that Excel calculates Christmas Day 2001 to be in the last week of the year. And the different return types for the week num function are also displayed here on this worksheet. The month function, as you might expect, will return the month for a particular date. So I'm going to go ahead and type in month here, give it this date as my only argument, and I should get December, or it will be the number 12 because December is the 12th month of the year. And the year function, as you might expect, will just strip off the year from a particular date and tell me that's 2001. Now there's some functions that deal with times as well. So I'm going to go ahead and type in the same time here, 7:37 and 15 seconds in the morning. And I can go ahead and use these functions to pull out the specific portion of the time that I'm interested in. So the hour associated with that time is 7, the minute is 37, the seconds would be 15, and if I wanted to get really fancy, I could pull the time portion off of a combined number that has both the date and time stored in the same cell.